Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Temperatures are hitting triple digits across the West, including parts of San Diego County. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's not a heat wave, but something known as a heat dome. Julia Vargas Jones has more on what causes it and why the excessive heat is so concerning this early in the year.
Brutal Temperatures brought to you by a heat dome, a large area of high pressure that traps in hot air and adds relentless sunshine. The longer this heat dome stays in place, the more intense the heat becomes.
The hots are getting hotter and the wets are getting wetter.
A heat dome is on track to usher in the hottest day of the year in the Western U.S. so far. Excessive heat warnings are in effect for millions in California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona.
Those who are working outside, those who have disabilities, those who are vulnerable or isolated, heat can present very real dangers.
Yet it is a danger that some underestimate. In 2023, Maricopa County, Arizona officials reported 645 heat-related deaths, the deadliest on record.
Extreme heat, especially extreme humid heat, is really kind of a silent killer. You don't think about a heat wave as being some sort of visually dramatic weather event in the same sense that a hurricane or a wildfire or a tornado might be, but they actually kill a lot more people.
Already this year, multiple heat-related deaths have been recorded, including 4 in El Paso, Texas last weekend. The heat's unprecedented trail of death this year has scorched India and Mexico, and hotter air and oceans fueled rainfall and catastrophic floods globally. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres sounded the alarm on the sweltering impacts of climate change.
We are playing Russian roulette with our planet, and we need an exit ramp off the highway to climate hell.
Records from the EU Climate Monitoring Service show every single month from June 2023 to May 2024 was the hottest such month on record.
Our planet is trying to tell us something, but we don't seem to be listening.
Officials are urging those who work outside to start early before temperatures peak and to take breaks for water and electrolytes. And if you're planning to cool off in a body of water, be mindful of swift currents. As this winter's record snow melts into rivers, they could be flowing faster than usual. In Los Angeles, I'm Julia Vargas Jones.
And the heat dome is having a variety of effects on our part of Southern California. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge has more from our newsroom.
If you live near the coast in San Diego where it's in the lower 70s, you may wonder where the heat dome is. But meteorologist Alex Tardy with the National Weather Service says it's there, it's just high above you. Speaking in La Jolla, he said the hot air is pressing down on the atmosphere, creating fog and low clouds.
So we can actually say, heat domes contribute to fog and low clouds. They also contribute to hot temperatures. So today is the second day of the heat wave. So we're expecting temperatures in the deserts to be around 110, hottest places 115.
He says heat domes magnify temperatures. In Idlewild, which at 5,500 feet has a much higher elevation than San Diego, they saw temperatures yesterday in the mid-90s. Heat domes do move and migrate, but some are more persistent than others. Tardy adds the current weather in the southwest is a harbinger for the summer. Forecasters are predicting a pretty hot one in 2024. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Well, we still have heat advisories and excessive heat warnings in place through some of the region as we head through the upcoming days. We'll tell you.
A new report has found La Mesa and Encinitas are leading local efforts to tackle climate change. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more on the latest climate action report card.
Transportation remains the largest source of local greenhouse gas emissions.
What do we want?
Climate action!
When do we want it?
Now!
The nonprofit Climate Action Campaign says cities need to pick up the pace of building more compact, walkable neighborhoods with good access to public transit. Anthony Dang is author of the watchdog group's Climate Action Plan report card. He says the city leading the pack in those efforts is La Mesa.
La Mesa scored highest because they are building dense infill housing, including affordable housing near businesses and transit. They've also made significant progress on planning their La Mesa Boulevard Complete Streets project, ensuring this area is safer to encourage more walking and biking.
Coming in second was Encinitas, which is leading on renewable energy and efforts to phase out natural gas usage in buildings. The city of San Diego ranked in the middle of the pack. The report found the city needs to double down on efforts to shift travel behavior away from cars.
In addition to these smaller cities doing their part, we need to see the city of San Diego and the county step up and pave the way for the region considering their sizes.
Climate change poses serious risks to public health, especially as extreme heat events get more frequent and intense. The stakes are especially high for low-income communities of color, as was made clear by San Diego's devastating floods on January 22nd.
Homes were demolished, families displaced, and communities submerged. Frontline communities, already traditionally underinvested, bear the brunt of damage and costs. It is clear we are ill-prepared for the challenges posed by our changing climate.
California has a goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. That's what scientists say is necessary to avoid climate catastrophe. Progress has been slow, and the state has to triple the pace of decarbonization to get on track. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
San Diego Police Chief David Nislight left police headquarters for the last time as chief today. He's retiring after 36 years with the department. A final radio broadcast thanked him for his service.
I know how much he's loved this job. I know how much of his life he's put toward his job. Gets up every morning at 4 a.m. and is rolling through watch commander reports, sending information that I need to know to me, work a full day, go home, respond to emails, return phone calls, be out in the community. This man has given his entirety of his life for nearly 4 decades to the city.
There was also a symbolic change of command to incoming Chief Scott Wall. Wall will be sworn in tomorrow. The mayor's office says he's been with the department for 26 years. And then there were 3. Sandag is narrowing down the Del Mar rail relocation project to 3 possible routes. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne says the public has 6 weeks to give feedback on the choices.
Plans to relocate the rail line off the crumbling coastal cliffs are chugging along. But where to put the tracks and future tunnel has yet to be decided. After getting public feedback and doing its own analysis, Sandag has narrowed down the search to 3 possibilities.
One's the alignment that's, kind of goes through the middle of Del Mar. One is another alignment that's closer to the ocean, but still inland. And then the alignment that goes closer to the I-5, which is an alignment that we heard straight from the public was something that they wanted us to study.
David Atai is the acting director of engineering and construction with Sandag. He says each route comes with its own benefits and challenges. For example, the one along the freeway starts in Solana Beach, where the track is already in a trench.
We'd have to deepen the trench. That gets pretty complicated from a construction perspective because we have to keep trains running while we create a deeper trench. And then we have to get under the lagoons and over to the I-5.
Atai says this is the longest route, meaning it will cost more and take longer to build. And eventually, the travel time will take longer too. Route B, the straightest route, cuts travel time.
So from an operational perspective, we're trying to also be sensitive to commuters that are traveling along this route. Like it's our goal as part of the regional plan to have people get from Oceanside to downtown in 33 minutes. So when trains have to go around curves, they have to slow down. But the crest alignment is the straightest alignment.
And Route C has the shortest tunnel, which could mean a cheaper cost.
So if you look at the circles out on the map, those are like the portals a portal is basically where a train enters a tunnel. And so if you go from circle to circle, you can kind of imagine how long that tunnel would be.
Atai says nothing in the project has been finalized, but time is of the essence. Every year, the bluffs erode by an average of 6 inches, creeping closer and closer to the tracks. The next steps are to gather community feedback on the 3 options. Sandag will hold an in-person community meeting on June 18th at the San Diego Marriott Del Mar. Comments can also be submitted online or by mail until July 19th. Once public comments are in, Sandag will still need to do more studies on the sites. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The class of 2024 may be slow to find their dream job as new numbers this week point to cooling in the labor market. But some economists say the job market for new college grads isn't as gloomy as they think. Karen Kafa has more on where and how to look.
With a job market that looks strong by the numbers, some new college grads may wonder, where are the job offers? Economists say there's more competition for fewer jobs.
The numbers game is not really in your favor. Jobs have become more competitive.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, just over 8 million available jobs were posted in April. That's about 1.2 jobs for every job seeker, the lowest ratio since June 2021. And Julia Pollack, chief economist for ZipRecruiter, says not every field has the same opportunities right now.
There are parts of the economy that are very slow, like retail, tech even, manufacturing.
Corey Kantanga, LinkedIn's head of economics for the Americas, says young workers should stay on top of industries that are hiring.
Knowing which industries have more openings coming online, where the hiring is taking place is going to be really important to figure out where you can apply.
And be open to new areas to apply their skills.
Don't look at the job title, just focus on what skills you have and whether your skills match what the role is actually asking for.
Kantanga and Pollack both say the U.S. workforce is aging, so young workers may not get their dream job right away, but can position themselves for the future.
It will soon dawn on many employers that they have an aging workforce, that they have a retirement tsunami headed their way, and that they need to find ways to reach out to and appeal to younger workers, new talent coming on the scene.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Today marks 80 years since thousands of coalition troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, turning the tide of World War II against Nazi Germany. Men and women who fought that day were joined by world leaders on those same beaches to honor and remember their sacrifice and service. Laura Aguirre has more from today's 80th D-Day commemoration.
We know the dark forces that these heroes fought against 80 years ago. These are perennial. The struggle between a dictatorship and freedom.
Balancing the remembrance of heroes past with a defiance to push back against global authoritarian regimes.
We're living in a time when democracy is more at risk across the world than any point since the end of World War II, since these beaches were stormed.
You're the savior of the people.
The president of Ukraine, a country now in its 3rd year of war with Russia, was among the world leaders attending Thursday's D-Day commemoration.
The United States and NATO and a coalition of more than 50 countries standing strong with Ukraine. We will not walk away.
The Bidens attended the day's ceremonies with the French president and first lady. For many of the veterans who came, some over 100 years old, this 80th anniversary of D-Day could be the last trip to Omaha Beach they are able to make. And most will tell you they are not here for themselves.
I'm here to tell you the heroes are up there. They gave their life. They gave their life so that I could make it.
A legacy of heroes entrusted now to new generations.
In their hour of trial, the Allied forces of D-Day did their duty. Now the question for us is, in our hour of trial, will we do ours?
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
And tomorrow, President Biden and the First Lady will visit Pointe du Hoc, a place famous in American military history for the heroic climb of Army Rangers up its 100-foot cliffs to neutralize German guns firing down on the beach. D-Day was also commemorated here in San Diego, including at the Air and Space Museum in Balboa Park. Veterans and community members gathered for a ceremonial bell ringing inside the rotunda. A video featuring the speech President Eisenhower gave to the D-Day troops before landing in France was also played. One World War II veteran became emotional as he remembered friends who were killed on the historic mission.
Many losses that were sacrificed that day, but look what it achieved.
Men
who stormed those beaches, the service members those days were very young men who, some of them, the war lasted only like 6 hours. And it's so important to remember that they were willing to give the sacrifice because they believed in what this country stands for.
The Coronado Historical Association also held a commemorative bell ringing and premiered the short film Geronimo in honor of D-Day today. When a pair of local sailors wanted to bring their invention idea to life, they found everything they needed in one place, the San Diego Public Library. KPBS military and veterans reporter Andrew Dyer has the story.
The San Diego Central Library downtown, a laser cutter carves a pre-programmed shape out of a scrap piece of wood. This is the device a pair of sailors credit for making their idea real. Matt Semple and Andy Camp were surface warfare officers on the USS Jason Dunham, a guided missile destroyer. Semple says it was difficult sharing a stateroom with their different watch schedules.
I remember I'd be asleep, I'd wake up to Andy literally banging on the sink to try to get his razor clean.
Sailors are required to shave every day. It's something Camp says they're indoctrinated with from the first days of training, and therefore is something they think a lot about. He started thinking about just how annoying that was.
So it was really being on a ship, highlighting the issues with shaving, because everything about shaving is worse on a ship, right? The bathroom's tinier, the water pressure is worse, the lighting's worse, whatever.
The pair had an idea. What if razor cartridges could be cleaned without banging them on a sink? Camp began sketching designs, and what emerged was an early version of the razor rinser. It's a small plastic device that pushes water through disposable razor cartridges, keeping the blades fresh and the hair out of sinks.
I think by the time we left that deployment, we had the general shape of it, which is basically just a pump that sprays water through your razor blade and then recycles it through filters.
The pair separately transferred to San Diego units, and the first thing Camp did was look for maker spaces.
I was shocked to see that the predominant one in San Diego is at the Central Library, and it's also free.
That's the Idea Lab on the 4th floor of the downtown library.
We have a die cut machine, we have sewing machines, embroidery machines, sergers, dye sublimation. We have a small CNC machine.
Catherine Hong is the Public Technology Services librarian at the San Diego Public Library. She's showing me around the lab. It has equipment anyone might need to bring an idea to life, and the library staff can show anyone how to use it.
So when somebody comes in with an idea, we have them sit down, sketch it out on paper, kind of have them talk it through. And so we take them around and kind of get the ball rolling, get them thinking.
Semple says the library also played a part patenting their invention. Hung connected them with Sarah Hendy Jackson, who runs the Patent and Trademark Resource Center.
What I do is I teach people about patents and trademarks, what the difference is, and how to pursue one.
Part of her job is to help people navigate the trademark process, which can be daunting. But she says anyone can do it, even if they're strapped for cash.
That's my favorite part about this whole thing. It's entirely free.
After a lot of trial and error, Camp demonstrates their invention.
So when you push down, the water gets accelerated through the slots and through your razor blade. This shape, because of the gasket around the outside, forces water between the blades, so it actually flushes the hair and gunk out.
Both sailors have just separated from the Navy. The pair hoped to raise $10,000 in startup funds on Kickstarter. When their campaign ended last month, they'd raised almost $70,000 from more than 1,300 backers.
We ended up just getting really lucky being in San Diego, where we could come into a space like this to where we could actually take that idea and start trying to, create an actual physical product.
The Idea Lab isn't just for inventors. There's tools to help people convert analog media to digital.
You can convert slides, negatives, and photos, high 8, DV8, Super 8, 8mm.
Hong says the staff is always there to help.
For sure. We're the library. We're a fountain of knowledge.
Hendy Jackson hopes Camp and Semple's story helps other San Diego inventors.
To be able to say, Matt and Andy did it, this is how they did it, these are the steps that they did, and you can do it too, and you can do it here for free. That's really just incredible.
Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Truly a fantastic invention. Well, unprecedented heat waves are sending more people to the emergency room, and that is according to CDC data. Mandy Gaither has red flags to help you recognize signs of heat-related illness.
As temperatures rise, so can the number of emergency room visits for heat-related illnesses.
Heat can affect pretty much any body system, unfortunately, if it's left unchecked.
Between May and September last year, CDC data shows the number of ER visits for heat-related illnesses substantially increased across several U.S. regions when compared to the same months of the 5 previous years, especially among men and adults between the ages of 18 and 64. These illnesses can be dangerous, even deadly, which is why it's important to know the signs, says emergency medicine Dr. Kevin Watkins with Cleveland Clinic.
The most patients that we see that deal with severe heat illness, like I said, primarily heat stroke, are usually more elderly patients with underlying health conditions, or sometimes even young children that aren't put in a safe environment.
One of the most dangerous heat-related illnesses is heat exhaustion. Signs include heavy sweating, cold, pale, and clammy skin, fast, weak pulse, nausea, vomiting, muscle cramps, fatigue or weakness, dizziness, headache, and fainting. Get medical help right away if symptoms last longer than an hour or get worse, or if you're throwing up. The most serious condition in high temperatures is heat stroke, which is a medical emergency. Red flags are a high body temperature of 103 degrees or higher, hot, red, dry, or damp skin, fast, strong pulse, headache, dizziness, nausea, confusion, and losing consciousness. The CDC says these symptoms should prompt an immediate call to 911. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The story through our interior locations has been all about the heat, and we still get that heat for another day, but we're starting to ease out of things. So the worst of the heat was really as we went through today, and tonight still, of course, dealing with some of those numbers that are above average for us through the inland locations. Well, the coastal areas get the clouds, and that's what helps to keep things a little bit cooler. Even as we head into early next week, we'll keep the coastline comfortable, but of course, the heat will be building yet again through our interior spots. So a lot going on here, but tonight the clouds do remain for the coastline. Places like Oceanside becoming cloudy, temperatures there in the mid-60s. As you work your way towards San Diego, 63 for the low in the city. Borrego Springs, mid-70s. Getting throughout time, though. The clouds do erode. Sunshine comes out. Still comfortable for the coast because we have those clouds to start off the day, but for our inland spots, it's about the heat. Heat advisories still in place. Excessive heat warnings still in place. So you want to use some caution. 106 for that high in Borrego Springs as we head through the day. Mount Laguna coming back to 72 degrees. As you work your way towards the coast, not too bad in San Diego, 71, and Oceanside coming in at 74. AccuWeather real field temperatures are going to be well into the triple digits as you work your way east of us. So we do have a lot of heat if you are traveling in several locations. The upcoming days, though, for the coast, we have the coastal clouds that keep us quiet to start off the morning, cooler then, and then the sunshine breaks through the afternoon, back to the 70s. Notice for our inland spots, we're back into the 70s and 80s. Once we get into those mountains and deserts, we start to notice those numbers fluctuating a little bit more. So from the lower 70s back to the mid 60s by the time we get into Sunday, and then we'll range back up again for Monday, back to the lower 70s. And for those desert spots, 106 for the high as we go through tomorrow. So a little bit of improvement there for us. And then we're back to the lower triple digits for the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constancer.
San Diego may be known for craft beer, but that's not the only fermentation creation in town. The region's wine industry is growing with record high sales this past year. But as KPBS North County reporter Alexander Wynn explains, things might not be as rosé next year.
Roger Gross owns Forgotten Barrel, which sits at the site of one of the oldest surviving wineries in the region. The history of the winery goes back to the 1880s.
We inherited a lot of old equipment and a very old wine cask.
He's been making wine in Escondido for the past 7 years. As with most small businesses, sales were down during the pandemic and have only recently bounced back.
Well, our sales are pretty consistent with pre-COVID right now.
Industry-wide, sales have been growing for the past 2 years, according to the San Diego County Vendors Association. County wineries saw about $54.5 million in gross sales last year, an 11% jump over 2022. That's also a record high for the industry.
I was just pretty excited to see that in the report that in both 22 and 23, the sales grew by over $5 million year over year.
Mike Weber is the president of the Vintners Association. He's also Ofila Winery's finance director.
It was a good year here for Ofila as well, and we did grow by our staff count by, I think it was like 3 or 4.
The Vintners Association Economic Impact Report shows that newer and expanding wineries added nearly 100 jobs last year, a 13% increase. Weber says the growth comes from local wineries getting better known and winning awards.
Despite 2 years of growth, some local vintners say there are some challenges for the industry ahead, such as fire insurance.
It's a big problem everywhere, especially in areas that abut open space. Properties like that are very difficult to insure right now.
So we were canceled from our provider and we had to go to the secondary market, and the secondary market is rather expensive.
Orfila is now paying 200% more for fire insurance than it did a few years ago. Weber says inflation is also a concern. Grove says event bookings at his vineyards are shrinking because people are cutting back.
So that business, I think, for 2024 is going to be a little smaller than 2023.
Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is discussing whether President Biden's new executive order restricting asylum at the border will change voters' minds this election year. And KPBS Roundtable is discussing a slate of new state bills that have moved forward in the legislature. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya C. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.